everybody, it's Alyssa. Welcome back to my reading channel. So in today's video, I am gonna be doing all of the books that I read in 2020, and the top 5 are going to be ranked because I read 24 books. My goal was 75 and I only read 24. That's okay, last year was kind of crazy. So I'm just going to be going in order of the books that I read. Some of the books, they fell while I was trying to make the thumbnail, they're all falling. So I'm basically just going to be showing you the book, maybe talking about it a little bit, giving you my rating, and then just moving on from there. Only my top 5 books are going to be ranked. All of the other books are just gonna be in order of how I read them in 2020. So first book I read in 2020 was Scythe by Neil Shusterman. I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. To be honest, a whole year later, I don't even remember the characters of this story. I barely remember anything very significant about it. All I remember is that it's a world with no like poverty, hunger, like nobody dies, and there are these people called the Scythes who are the people who choose who die, if that makes sense. So basically they're just like the Grim Reapers who choose when someone dies so the world stays normal, you know what I mean? So there's not people just living forever. And it was like interesting enough not to put it down, but I honestly don't remember anything significant about it. Then I don't have this physically, but I read In the Tall Grass by Stephen King and Joe Hill. I ranked it 3 out of 5 stars. I also watched the movie afterwards, and it's a very weird story. I mean, Stephen King and Joe Hill writing is kind of weird anyway. It was kind of creepy, but not really. It was a very short story, so I read it in like an hour or two, and I remember the story, and it was just weird. Like, it was honestly just weird. It's about this family who is drives up to this church, and there's like this really tall grass, and they hear some screaming from the grass, so the family goes running into the grass, and it's just like this big like parallel universe, and there's like this weird like goddess monster thing controlling the grass. It's very weird, but it was entertaining. Then I read The Hidden Staircase. This is a Nancy Drew book. I loved Nancy Drew growing up. Some of my all-time favorite book series for sure. And I was going to do a whole video where I tried to figure out how many Nancy Drew books I could read in a day. And I read the first book and then I just gave up. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. Obviously I'm not a kid anymore. The story just moves very dumb. Like, I don't know, the stories are just not as good as they were when I was a kid. I mainly just own these out of nostalgia, but yeah. Then I read All My Love, Alec Brock by Larissa Lopes. I actually gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it, and I still need to pick up the sequel and read it because I was sent that for free as well. I was sent this book free by the author, and I absolutely loved it. It gave me all of my like old Wattpad vibes of like a rock star falling in love with a main girl, you know? But it's basically a catfish story about this girl who thinks she is talking to a famous pop singer. I believe it was pop. And one day she goes to one of his meet and greets, and he has no idea who she is, but she tells the singer what the issue is with her, and him and her try to figure out who the catfish is because it is someone who is close to him. And it is very, very interesting. I love the main character and the rock star. I think their dynamic together is really good, so I really like that. And I read The Tea Dragon Society by Katie O'Neill. I ranked it 4 out of 5 stars. I actually really liked it. The art style is absolutely beautiful. I love the colors. I loved it. I just felt like the story was just a little too short for one book in my opinion, but I did get this sent in a subscription box, so I didn't have to pay for it, but I definitely want to pick up the next volume. Next 2 books I read were some witchcraft books. I read The Modern Guide to Witchcraft by Skye Alexander, and I also read Wicca by Harmony Nice. I have a whole video on witchcraft books I recommend, and I will link that if you guys are interested, but these are just some books that I was reading in my study of witchcraft. I ranked them both 5 out of 5, I believe. Next, I read the first volume of the Mortal Instruments graphic novel. I ranked it 5 out of 5 stars just because I love the Mortal Instruments, and that's pretty much it. Then I read Remember Me by Chelsea Bubloski. I still can't say that last name. This was supposed to be like a horror book about a haunted hotel, and this guy moves into this haunted hotel, and I'm not gonna say more than that because I feel like it'll be kind of spoilery. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars because it was a pretty predictable story in my opinion, but it was entertaining enough not to put it down. Then we have Tomi by Junji Ito. This is a horror manga. I rated it 4 out of 5 stars just because it can get a little confusing sometimes, especially if you've never read Junji Ito before. And this was my first Junji Ito book. His writing is obviously translated from Japanese, so sometimes it's a little confusing, but his art style and everything is just amazing. It is horror, so if you don't like horror, then you would not like this, but I love Junji Ito now, like one of my favorite manga writers. I have a Patreon buddy read. I believe this was for the month of, no, I think this was November. I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. It's obviously just about this girl's best friend's exorcism. I liked it. I mean, it definitely, I think I actually gave it a 3.5. Yeah, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. First half was pretty boring, but it's basically just about this girl whose best friend has like a demon inside of her, and that's pretty much all that I'm going to say about it because anything else would be spoilery. I'm honestly only keeping this book for the cover. I think it's absolutely beautiful. Then I read Devil in Ohio by Daria Polatin. This was supposed to be a horror story as well about, and it's based on a true story, which kind of makes me feel weird, but it's about this girl named Jules whose mom works at like a mental institution for kids and people that have mental issues, and this girl came in and she had like these satanic scars like embedded into her skin. So the mom broke the rules and brought the girl home because she felt like she needed a family, and the girl never ever really talked. I actually really liked her as a character. The story on the back of the book made it seem like this girl is like a demon and she's gonna take over the main character's life, but that's actually not how it happens at all. The main character is actually very, very annoying. That's why I ranked it 2 out of 5 stars, because the main character was so annoying, and the ending was just an ending. Like, you feel like if it was a true story, you would get more to it, but the ending, it just kind of stopped, and that's it. And I did not like that. So next, I listened to the audiobook of Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I kept seeing so many booktubers talk about this author and talk about this book, about how it was the most amazing book of the year, and I rated it 3 out of 5 stars. I didn't really see the hype in it. It was definitely interesting. It's about this main character named Daisy who joins a band, and it's just about the band of the Six, Daisy Jones and the Six, and it has different point of views of different characters, which kind of got confusing over the audiobook. Yeah, I don't know. It was interesting enough. I listened to it in literally one day, but I don't feel like it was like the best book I've ever read. So, but the audiobook was really good, and the casting and the voices of each person was really good. Next, I have another Patreon buddy read that I did. This was Shatter Me by Tahara Mafi. I rated this 3 out of 5 stars. It's basically about this girl who has these powers, and if you like touch her, she can kill you with her powers. And the book starts off where she's trapped in like this empty room and she hasn't had contact with the outside world for a long time now, and then she gets like a roommate. I can't really say more from there because there's like just a whole story from there. I do enjoy it, and I'm definitely going to pick up the second book eventually. It was definitely a first book type story where you just get like character building, and then the story is probably gonna just hit off more in the next book. Next, I read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I believe this was my December Patreon buddy read, and I rated this 2 out of 5 stars, I believe. Book was so hyped, and everybody was talking about how it's the most amazing book of 2020, and I definitely have to disagree with that. I felt like the story was super boring, so slow. I felt like the main character was incredibly boring for someone who has lived since the 1800s or 1700s. She had like nothing interesting about her at all. So basically the story is about a main character who wants to live a different life than what she has, and she doesn't want to just be married off to any other man, and she doesn't want to have kids just because that's what women are supposed to do. So she makes a deal with the devil. He's called like a dark spirit or something like that, and she sells her soul to him, and whenever she is ready to die, I guess, she calls on him and he just takes her away. But it's basically like the story just goes back and forth between life in the 1700s and her life in like 2014, and then it goes back and forth between her and the spirit, and it's just too much for me. It was boring. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars because I like the way V.E. Schwab writes, but that's pretty much it. So next, I'm gonna go through my top 5 books that I read in 2020. First, I'm gonna go with number 5, which is Heartstopper Volume 3. I absolutely love the Heartstopper series, and I don't know if you guys saw, but Heartstopper is actually becoming a live-action TV show on Netflix. They haven't had a cast or anything yet, but the author announced it yesterday, and I freaked out. I'm so excited. But it's basically about these just 2 main boy characters who are finding their sexuality. They start dating. It's just a story about them basically finding their sexuality, and it's really cute. The story is so cute, and I just love the art style. Oh, I love it. And the next volume comes out this year and I'm so excited. Oh, okay, so it probably seems like this count is not going right. One of the top 5 books is actually just a bunch of volumes of manga. I'm just putting them together as one book, but it's actually 5 books. That makes sense, so hopefully I don't get confused. But top 4 book is Starfish by Akemi Dawn Bowman. This was a beautiful story. I actually read it digitally and then I bought the physical book, so I want to reread it again and annotate it. Basically just about a story of a main girl who has a really horrible mother. I hate her mother in this story. It was almost unbearable to read at some points. And it's a story about this girl who wants to go to this art school and she doesn't get into the art school, and it's just her with her mental health. She has an invitation from a childhood friend to come like tour other art schools with him, and they go tour them together, and there's like a little romance, and it's just really cute. I love the way the story was written. It is beautiful. I love how it talks about mental health. It's just a really good story. So next, I basically grouped 5 books into one because it's just manga. So I read volumes 1 through 5 of Tokyo Ghoul. I've already watched the anime. I already know what happens, but the manga is way better than the anime. So it's basically this horror manga about this main character who gets killed by a ghoul. And basically what happens is when they both die at the same time, they take her organs and put it inside of his body for him to live. So basically he's half human and half ghoul, and ghouls are basically like zombies in the real world. They want to be killed by people. They're like, people are terrified of ghouls because they eat people. So he's basically half human, half ghoul, and he has to live his life wanting to eat people and has to hide his identity from people even though he's like half dead. And it's just a really good story. The characters, amazing. I love Tokyo Ghoul. The first season is the only season I really enjoyed. The second season was okay, but I really love the manga so far from the first 5 volumes that I read. And we have my 2 final books of 2020. We have The Vampire Academy by Rochelle Mead. I'm a little late to this book series because everybody read it like back in the day, but I'm just now reading it and I really liked it. Love the main character. I love the story. It's literally just about a vampire academy. Who doesn't love vampires? So, and then my number 1 book of 2020, Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. And this is so basic because I've never actually read Sarah J. Maas before, but Throne of Glass was the only book of 2020 that I remember just thinking about a lot after reading it. And I didn't read a lot of books in 2020 that I really enjoyed, and this one just, I loved it. I love the characters, I love Selena, I badass, and I started reading the second book and then I stopped, so I definitely want to keep reading on with the series, but this book is definitely one of my favorite books now and I absolutely love it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video of me kind of ranking and showing you the books I read in 2020. I set my goal for 50 books in 2021, so hopefully I will reach that this year, but if not, that is completely okay. Let me know your favorite book of 2020 down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to check out all of my channels and my social medias down below. Hope you have a good day and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.